Feuchamaich, ye Olde Scot the Celtic podcast. Kimraha Huladunya, how's everyone? On today's show in Feuchamaich Beagan Gaelic, that's Let's Try Little Gaelic. Gaelic phrases you can use every day. In Celtic history, Dr. James Barry. In array Celtic ways, Cerridwen, the keeper of the cauldron. And we're going to hear music from Celtic women, Maeve McKinnon, Karen Casey, and a twofer from Gaidhlig. And as always, it's a wee bit of Irish trivia to test your knowledge to start us off. The body of water between Ireland and Wales is called what? Check out the Ye Olde Scot Facebook group where you can be a part of the Celtic culture, and keep an eye out for all the different videos our YouTube channel and Facebook group have to offer. Feuchamaich, let's kick this thing off.
Feuchamaich my Ilamar, bonny boy Gilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my Ilamar. In this land unfree, oh, who will feign to unchain me? My children keen in vain for thee, to break my chains for liberty. Feuchamaich my Ilamar, bonny boy Gilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my Ilamar. Mountains high and valleys low, the cuckoo sings of Saxon foe. 'Tis you must strike the mortal blow, my Ilamar, my Vulcabio. Feuchamaich my Ilamar, bonny boy Gilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my So come, my love, to battle, come to this fair land so wearisome. Let harp and song the valleys hum, and sound the sound of freedom strong. Feuchamaich my Ilamar, bonny boy Gilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my Ilamar. Feuchamaich my Ilamar, bonny boy Gilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my Ilamar. Feuchamaich my Ilamar, bonny boy Gilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my Ilamar, you will be my gallant star. Oh, haste to me, my
Scottish Gaelic is native to the Gaels of Scotland. Scottish Gaelic developed out of the Old Irish, and learning this beautiful language can be a direct link to your Gaelic ancestors. Follow along in Feuchamaich Beagan Gaelic, and like I said, let's try a little Gaelic. Alright, today in Feuchamaich Beagan Gaelic, we're going to go over some basic phrases that you're going to use in your everyday life. Alright, we're going to start off with Dusk ar a Hos. And that is wake up on your toes or get out of bed. We're going to gav fras, take a shower, glan hiechlin, clean our teeth, brush de hot, brush our hair, cor orst dolach, put on our clothes, or ich dovrakish, eat breakfast. Alright. Alright. The next is Jehau Janev. What are you doing? Anai nan sohichin, washing the dishes. Acharag nan lepi, making the bed. And glanig and tai, cleaning the house. A Janev a darlakik, washing the clothes. Alright. Then we got Rach no Halav, go or leave. Rach Hadal, go to bed. Kachavelu Adol, where are you going? Hamia Falav, I'm going, or I'm leaving. Alright, and last but not least, Kachavel. Kachavel and cat. That means, where's the cat? Erlavord, on the table. Ritu nalepa, next to the bed. Ansafres, in the dresser. Ach en unik, at the window. Alright, that's it for Feuchamaich Beagan Gaelic.
Trabajadores de mi patria, tengo fe. Entiendo su destino. Sigan ustedes sabiendo que mucho más temprano que tarde, de nuevo, abrirán la grande alameda por donde pasaron Betty. Para Corumuni, mujer sociedad mejor. ¡Viva Chile! ¡Viva el pueblo! ¡Vivan los trabajadores!
A green-eyed child is perched across the aisle on a coach bound for Peru, and she turned 6 years old the day they packed their clothes. Her favourite doll left by the door, and she's not supposed to tell the soul why their bags don't carry many clothes. In a climate of fear, there are curious ears, so keep your eyes firmly on the road. A green-eyed child sits on the staircase, asking where her mother's gone. For she went out to work and she hasn't yet come back, and 10 days is far too long. It's a strange week, alright, when your dad leaves in the night with the radio left on. Neighbors say that the soldiers are raiding the houses, but what do they search for in our home? We're not staying, and one day we will return, for it stops our hearts from breaking for the land that we call home. A green-eyed child is seeing documents and files stacked high out in the yard, smoke in the air, and she likes the glare of the bonfire her brother brothers meet. She didn't recognize their mother when they all embraced together, for you swear she'd aged 10 years. So the things that she's seen and how she was beaten, she'll make sure her children never hear. We're not staying, and one day we will return, for it stops our hearts from breaking, for the land that we call home. A green-eyed child is in a strange new world, in a town they don't belong. She starts school, but she won't play by the rules, for she hears they're not staying for long. There's no buying of tables and chairs if they're able, for they're surely going home. So the suitcase is black, packed and ready to fly, and their mother swears it won't be long. We're not staying, and one day we will return, for it stops our hearts from breaking, for the land that we call home. We're not staying, and one day we will return, for it stops our hearts from breaking, for the land that we call home.
Celtic history brings you the tales of the land, castles, warriors, heroes, legends, and customs that have created the rich, vibrant, and sometimes strange and wonderful history of the Celtic world. Celtic Badass of the Week showcases a different badass person of Celtic heritage each week. Those who exemplify the give no shit attitude and come out on top. They may come from our past or our present, but rest assured they come from all walks of life and legend. They are men, women, even old ladies and pirate queens. You don't have to be a muscled-up Celt in a fur kilt swinging a mighty sword. You can just be a 4'11" Welsh woman and suffragette who knows jujitsu. Most of these badasses are all too real. While some may be only legend, badass legends though. The only prerequisite for this title is Celtic blood and badassedness. This week's Celtic badass, Dr. James Barry, the badass who fooled the entire British Empire. Now this story is going to be a challenge of the pronouns, so watch closely for the changes. Margaret Buckley, niece of great painter James Barry, disguised herself as a man to become a badass pioneering surgeon, carrying out the first successful cesarean delivery. Now Margaret Buckley fooled the army, snooty high society types, and even the whole British Empire, from Queen Victoria to Lord Raglan and even Florence Nightingale. Dr. James Barry became a celebrated surgeon and a bold pioneer of new techniques. He was a favorite in high society and a private physician to the nobility. In 1809, during a bitter London winter, with the Napoleonic War at its height, a young Irish woman set out on a badass course of deception which would fool the brightest and the highest in the British Empire. Dreading the confined life of a woman, knitting lace doilies and drinking tea all day, she had decided to transform herself into a man. You see, badassedness comes in all forms. Hers was to shed the societal norms of a woman and boldly pursue her dreams no matter what the cost. Now that is badass. Now Margaret Buckley was 20 years old. She had been born in Cork in 1789 into a respectable family. Her father, Jeremiah, had a shop on Merchant's Quay, which serviced the ships. It was a busy time, Cork being one of the main hubs in the British Empire's vast network of trade and warfare. But following the 1798 rebellion and the Acts of Union, which tied Ireland to bondage to Britain, Jeremiah lost his businesses and his small fortune through a mix of anti-Catholic repression and his own foolhardiness, taking on large loans to pay for the education of his wasteful and good-for-nothing son. Margaret, who was actually brighter than her moronic brother and had been brought up with the middle-class expectations, was thrown into poverty. Adding to her burden in her early teens, she was raped by her other asshole uncle and bore a child. Margaret and her mother fled to London, leaving Jeremiah to languish in Dublin's debtor's prison. Now they sought help from Margaret's uncle, the great but eccentric painter, James Barry, another son of Cork, who had established a reputation for both artistic greatness and, well, madness. When Uncle James Barry died, Margaret was taken under the wings of his intellectual friends, including General Francisco de Miranda, a badass exiled Venezuelan revolutionary. Now Margaret decided to use her modest inheritance for a remarkable purpose. With Miranda's encouragement, she hoped to become a surgeon and go with him to Venezuela to fight in its war of independence. Of course, in the early 1800s, it was unthinkable for a woman to study medicine, let alone practice it or wear less than 100 layers of clothing. But Margaret, a young woman of intelligence, vision, and daring, and a little simmering cauldron of badassiness, decided to disguise herself as a man and go after her dreams. She adopted the name of her late uncle, James Barry, and set out for Edinburgh University. Amazingly, she was accepted and enrolled, and her small stature and fresh-faced appearance were put down to her being just very young. Now, it was a hard life. College in those days didn't involve any frat parties or running naked through the quad. It was very serious, grueling education. 16 hours a day of lectures, studying, practical classes, pretending you have a penis, and board experience, as well as grisly dissections and insanitary conditions, all in an overwhelmingly masculine environment. However, the new improved James Barry prospered, and in due course he returned to London a qualified doctor. Within months he had passed for membership in the Royal College of Surgeons. And at this point, Margaret made a fateful decision. Shedding her disguise and going to Venezuela was no longer an option. General Miranda had been betrayed by a friend and was now in a Spanish jail. Instead, Margaret decided to keep the new James Barry in existence. And so he did the one thing even more manly than what he had already done. He joined the British Army as a surgeon. For the next half-century, Margaret Buckley fooled the Army, high society, and the whole British Empire, from Jamaica to Malta and from Cape to Crimea. Dr. James Barry became a celebrated surgeon, a pioneer of new techniques, and in 1826 he carried out the first successful cesarean delivery, a procedure which was invariably fatal for the mother in those days. And with his new techniques, she was able to save the mother. Now, he was a favorite in high society and a private physician to the nobility, and although most people found the effeminate little doctor peculiar, nobody knew that beneath his immaculate scarlet coat he was sporting a vagina. Now, even if they had suspected something, they wouldn't have believed it. According to the values of the day, it was inconceivable that a woman, of all things, could master the intellectual challenges of medicine and surgery and drinking scotch and smoking cigars, let alone the physical ones. This was a time without anesthetics, and surgical patients had to be held down, and whacking off limbs was a common treatment for fractures and infections. But Margaret Buckley, a.k.a. Dr. James Barry, had mastered it all and excelled as a badass doctor, surgeon, and, overall dude. Dr. James Barry pulled the wool over the eyes of the British Army Medical Department and a large swath of the British Empire, from Queen Victoria, the Lord Raglan, and even Florence Nightingale. Even Napoleon's astute special advisor, who became a patient of Dr. Barry's,
during his captivity was fooled. This secret couldn't last forever, though. Dr. James Barry, he died in London in 1865, but now he had left standing instructions that he be buried in the clothes in which he died, without examination, but that was forgotten or just ignored, because some stupid woman hired to lay out the body discovered the truth about his or her sex, and now at first she tried to blackmail the army, tried to blackmail whoever she could, and when that failed, she made the news public. The news spread across Britain and throughout the empire like wildfire, because everybody knew him. He had a reputation. Speculation about Barry's motives and his true identity remained a mystery, though. Like actually doing something with your life isn't good enough reason. Now, her life as James Barry was a succession of audacious firsts. The first woman to become a doctor, the first to perform a successful cesarean delivery, a pioneer in hospital reform and hygiene, and the first woman to rise to the rank of general in the British Army. Barry's commission, signed by Queen Victoria, it still exists. The stress of gaining all these achievements while maintaining her disguise had its effect on Margaret. James Barry became notorious for his irascible temper and his intolerance of contrary opinions and his violent response when his disguise seemed under threat. On one occasion, he slashed a fellow officer across the face with a riding crop for remarking on his effeminate appearance. On another, he fought a famous duel in which he was wounded in the thigh, but he had hit his opponent square in the forehead with his bullet. But his opponent was saved because of the peak of his hat. It must have been a Yankees hat because they can't hit anything. But as well as pioneering hospital hygiene and public health, Barry was a vigorous campaigner against slavery, and all the while helped push towards the frontiers of surgery. During the Crimean War, he ran an exemplary hospital for convalescent wounded in Corfu, and clashed with Florence Nightingale at Scutari. It may be that, beneath her disguise, Margaret was jealous of the praise heaped upon her female colleague, Florence Nightingale, for implementing hygiene and sanitation measures, which Barry had been practicing for years in obscurity. After the initial scandal of 1865 following his death, his name was relegated to obscurity in Britain. But in Ireland, he is still remembered fondly today as a great woman and a great man.
Find our work du will do feila a kamari fingo love yagla stang kail tag gravak the glauta spala stafan tag leura o grama cree it's with la kaila a kamari fingo is dagul praga la krukas gavgra a kamari fingo la sagat sues la gawa graina a kamari fingo love fault is a laken gog paved it marata shro la show the glesta nor the skapen andruat a new son's parart a kamari vingo
Everyday Celtic Ways brings you the mythology, traditions, and customs that have created a unique and personal culture that still affects those that are Celtic and those that just love the Celtic world. Gods of the Celts. Did you know that some of the deities from Celtic mythology were influenced by the pantheons of other groups that invaded the British Isles? The Celts didn't leave us any information about their gods and goddesses. So much of what we know is from the writings of Julius Caesar and his contemporaries, as well as Christian monks who came along later. The Celtic deities were generally connected to various aspects of daily life, such as domestic and labor-related tasks, and elements of the natural world, like streams, trees, or hills. As each Celtic country gained its own identity and formed their own gods and goddesses, they drew from these ancient deities, therefore creating their own mythology. Before the countries that made up the modern Celtic world was even created, their Celtic identity is what bound them together. The Celts consisted of societies in Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Britain, and parts of Europe. And the Celtic roots are being reestablished every day, deeper and deeper into Europe and Asia, with new discoveries. Here's one of the major deities honored by those ancient Celtic peoples. And it's Cerridwen, keeper of the cauldron. Cerridwen is known in Welsh mythology as the keeper of the cauldron of the underworld, in which knowledge and inspiration are brewed together. She is considered a goddess of prophetic powers, and because her symbol is the cauldron, she is an honored goddess in many Wiccan and pagan traditions. The legend of Cerridwen is heavy with instances of transformation. When she is chasing Gawain, the two of them change into any number of animal and plant shapes. Following the birth of Taliesin, Cerridwen contemplates killing the infant but changes her mind. Instead, she throws him into the sea, where he is rescued by a Celtic god, Elfin. Because of these stories, change and rebirth and transformation are all under the control of this powerful Celtic goddess. All right, check out next week's podcast for the next Celtic deity.
Leaving sweet, lovely Derry for fair London town. There is no finer harbour a run can be found, where the youngsters each evening go down to the shore, and the joy bells are ringing for the Maid of Culmore. The first time I saw her, she passed me by, and the next time I saw her, she bid me goodbye. But the last time I saw her, it grieved my heart so, for she sailed on Lough Foyland, away from Culmore. If I had the power, the storms for to rise, I would make the wind blow out. I'd darken the skies, I'd make the wind blow high, and the salt seas to roll, till the day that my darling sailed away from Culmore to the back parts of America. My love, I'll go and see, for it's there I know no one, and no one
Topaleva Herichin, and that was whatever's scrolling across the bottom. Now remember to check out my YouTube channel. It's got Celtic music, podcasts, Gaelic language, Gaelic song, Celtic history videos, plus lots more. And my Facebook group where you can give me your inputs and insights on all things Celtic. But before I let you go, the trivia question answer. The Irish Sea. Irish Nuair Beagan. Martian Leaving Drozda. Bye for now. But I'm going to let you go with a song. And that one's going to be scrolling across the bottom too.
Goodbye, Bobby.
She's like a swallow that flies so high, like a river that never runs dry, like the sunshine on the lee shore. She loves her love, and love is no more. Tis out in meadow this fair maid did go, picking the lovely primrose. The more she plucked, the more she pulled, until she's got her apron full. She climbed on yonder hill above to give a rose unto her love. She gave him one, she gave him three, she gave her heart for company. And as they sat on yonder hill, his heart grew hard, so harder still. He has two hearts instead of one. She says, young man, what have you done? How foolish, foolish you must be,